Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Leanne Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now.
If you've ever heard a Subaru commercial or a Citibank ad, you've heard today's guest. Tish Hicks has spent more than 25 years as a voiceover artist, lending her voice to some of advertising's longest-running campaigns. She's also the founder of VO Dojo, a training program that's helped students from 14 to 80 break into the industry. Today, she's telling us how she built a career most people don't even know exists, and what's next for voice work in the age of AI.
Today we're talking to Tish Hicks, who is a voiceover artist. How did you get into voiceover?
Well, in some ways, it was a conglomeration of everything that I had done up to that point. And then in some ways it was how I got first started was what I call the helicopter coming. So I studied theater at Northwestern University. I was an opera singer. I was working at Second City and doing improv. I was doing regional Shakespeare. So I was doing all the things. And that was like the preparation. Of course, no one at those things had said anything about voiceover. And then the helicopter coming part was my then boyfriend, now husband's best friend was a creative director and said, "Hey, I have a voiceover spot for Bally's Total Fitness that I think you'd be great for." And I was like, "Okay, sure. I guess I could do that." And I left that session going, this is what I'm going to do. Like everything I've ever done as a performer suddenly made 100% sense. And I got paid and I was Taft-Hartley'd into the union. And like, I was like, this is what I'm doing. So,
So why did you like it so much?
um, cause it really is a little bit of everything. Everything as a performer is in voiceover, but you don't have to go to set. You don't like it's just like all the fun parts and the parts that make it simple and easy and accessible without the hard parts or the arduous parts or what do you look and like those you're not the right type, right? So yeah, that's like the beginning of a 30-year journey in a nutshell.
Okay. So can you talk about, like, you do a lot of different kinds. There's books and there's animation and
Mhm.
there's a variety of things that you do. And can you talk about how those are different?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think so first of all, there's the layer of sometimes I tell people I do voiceover and they're like, what is that? And like there's some level of like people go not understanding that voiceover is even a thing. So then I explain, oh, it's commercials or things, different things. And then once you step in and understand that there is voiceover, there are so many different things. I myself have been really blessed in the commercial realm. I've been one of the voices of Subaru for the last 15 years, which is like the holy
Wow.
grail of voiceover to have a long running campaign that just keeps on coming. So I am full of gratitude every single day that that continues. And then so there's the realm of commercials, and I'm just adding actually I just did a demo for political ads, 'tis the
Mm.
season. So I hadn't really cracked that. That's something I'm adding 30 years in. So that's a whole nother realm of advertising, and that's TV commercials and radio commercials. And then there's all of the realms of narration, which might be audiobooks is kind of its own little kingdom. Then there's e-learning and corporate narration and explainer videos and variations of like IVR, interactive voice recording, right? So there's things like that. And then there's animation and also there's all the things within animation. There's video games. Now there's podcast, which sometimes covers audio drama too. Like what we're doing now is not necessarily voiceover, but if you guys, I don't know, maybe you have the introductions to the podcast that you do, right? So that's you doing voiceover, right? When we hear the intros that you do. Um, but
Mhm.
some podcasts have other people do that. Yeah, so it's really quite vast what you can do with voiceover. And I think a lot of times people are not even aware of what all the possibilities are.
One thing I've been noticing is a lot of celebrities, and I realize things have changed in the acting business, that there are people who are doing like Owen Wilson is all over my television because he's doing voiceover for like Wells Fargo. So these are things that are taken from voiceover artists and because they're recognized voices.
If you are of the mindset that, like, if you approach it that way, right? Or
Okay.
you can say there is work to be done, and one way to get to the work is to become a movie star and get offered bigger contracts to get paid for it. But it's not, I sometimes go back to Northwestern and teach master classes and stuff. And a kid raised his hand and said, "Hey, what about celebrities taking our work?" It's like, darling, it's not our work, it's the work. And one solution is to become a movie star, or you do the work that there is, and everything's always shifting. Is the realm really different than it was 30 years ago when I started? Yeah, a lot of how the business works is really different. And I have my 30 years ago lady like, when I started, it was like this. We would do this and this. And there's a lot of things that have really, really changed in the business in terms of when I started in Chicago. Soon after moved to LA. The game then was you moved to a major market, you got your skills up to get to a major agency. The major agencies had relationships with all of the major advertising agencies, and that's where the opportunities was. So once you got to here, it was kind of like a little trout pond. And there was a number of people here, but we were all in it together. And now it's just really different. The trout pond still exists and this level of work still exists, but now it's really different and spread out. And now it's always been something that you've had to approach entrepreneurially, right? That it's your business and you're running it and you're building your relationships and maintaining the relationships like any business that you're running yourself. It's even more now. And then the other thing that has really, really, truly changed, well, the thing about voiceover that's still a through line is that it is one of the most supportive, collaborative, generous, kind communities of people that you will ever encounter. Like just really great people and there's an ethic of kindness and generosity and collaboration. That's just like the ethic of voiceover. So that is maintained. But the reality of how the voiceover business runs now is increasingly solitary and isolated and solitary, right? Like I'm in my 6 by 6 little place. This is where I do my work. I do my sessions. I had a session this morning. This is where I do my sessions. But it's kind of we've all got our own little spaceships, and 6 by 6 is luxurious. Most people are like, "Ooh, my 3 by 3, smaller than solitary confinement. I have arrived," right? Like there's some things that are the normal things that we do. So there's a bunch that has changed, but the heartbeat of it and what you can do with it and how you can approach it. I always say voiceover is a fantastic way to make a living And then in addition to being a voiceover artist myself, I have a voiceover training company called the VO Dojo. And a lot of what I've learned from my journey, I instill from the beginning of people's careers. So it's a fantastic way to make a living. And the people that I know that are successful in it, really, it becomes a way of life, right? So, yeah.
So I was going to ask you about VO Dojo. I
Mhm.
can't say that. VO Dojo. Um, but I'll get to that. But it seems like I'm hearing that to be a successful voiceover artist, you have to be able to pivot. You have to be entrepreneurial. You have to be an optimist. What are some of the other things I'm missing?
Um, you need to know yourself. You are your product, right? Your voice and what it is capable of, and what you're bringing to any copy to bring it to life, whether it's a piece of commercial copy or a crazy animation. You're bringing yourself to bring you connect up to allow yourself to come through your vocal expression. So that's like it is a place that requires that you know yourself and what you're bringing. You are your product.
And so, can you tell me about what you do with VO Dojo? Did
Yeah,
I say that right?
yeah.
VO
The VO
Dojo.
Dojo, yeah.
Thank
The
you.
VO Dojo. Yeah. Well, the VO Dojo is, in its 15th year, and it is a holistic, full training center for voiceover. So we are here to guide, support, connect, and accelerate from I don't know to working pro. We have 7 areas of mastery that we holistically incorporate in all of the training. Um, Mindset, skill set, hands-on experience. This is how it will really go. The technical, you do need to have your booth at some point. You do need your vocal and physical instrument, the business of voiceover, and then community and connection. Those we work those all holistically. We have our development division and our working pro division. So wherever you are, we'll meet you where you are. And we start with our foundational class called You Should Do Voiceover, Launchpad, and Workout. That gives you a comprehensive overview and a little taste of everything. And if that sparks you, then we have our full 12-month program that is called From Mystery to Mastery. It's divided into 5 belt levels. Launchpad is white belt, opening your awareness. Yellow belt is exploration. Green belt is then self exploration. What are you bringing to the party? Becomes your demo prep. Blue belt is demo production. And then brown belt is integration. How are you, wherever you are in your life, whatever priorities you have, whatever your voice is suited for, how are you going to build your business? And then we cross the threshold when after brown belts, you earn your black belt. Now you're ready. Now your work begins. You cross the threshold into the working pro division, which is called the nth degree, like nth degree black belt. And we have workouts there. And then we also have our VO Pro Fight Club, which is a working pro workout that brings together top notch talent and the decision makers who hire you. So that's part of our working pro division, but it's also part of the mystery to mastery training. So from the very beginning, you're being exposed and then later on in upper belt levels you participate. So it's a whole integrated understanding that this is a journey that doesn't stop and that we're able to find out about ourselves by learning with and from each other, and then we support each other in that community that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it exists, but we have to actively create it for ourselves. That's not like because we go to the agency every day and everybody's there. And then, one of the things that I love about the VO Dojo is that I'm so excited and proud about this because we're here to teach voiceover, but we really are aligning people with the power and possibility of their voice in the world and what that means. And one of the things that I'm absolutely most excited and proudest of about the dojo is that we literally have people who are 14 years old and we have people who are 80 years old that are on the journey, and we're all together on the journey. And so, there's things that we need to do when our voice is older that those are things that we need to take into account and what happens to it and how do we support it and stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you because you mentioned, people anywhere from 14 to 80, so it sounds like you have people who are starting at the very beginning, and then maybe you have people who are career pivoting into something like this. How easy is it for somebody to career pivot? Because I'll tell you, I think a lot of our listeners are actually kind of thinking about career pivots, and
Yeah.
so this seems like a viable option, but, is it?
It is a viable option. I always explain that the program at the VO Dojo, it's not accredited, but I consider it like the equivalent of doing a 1-year master's program. However, I mean, and I guess with what's happening in the world, like, you can take a 1 year's master program and still not get a job. So if you come into it with the right mindset and know why you're doing it and know that you are starting a business
Mm.
and that businesses take a while to build and become profitable. So if you're thinking, I'm going to quit my job and start doing voiceover, that will be something you probably shouldn't quit your job until you can segue, right? You can segue and you're building your skills as a voiceover artist and you're building your skills as an entrepreneur. Anything in the entertainment business, is no guarantee. I went to fancy pants school, and thank goodness I love my fancy pants school, but go cats. But you know, I don't know how my career would have gone if my career happened to find voiceover, and it's been a six-figure thing for a long, long time for me. There's, sometimes it goes down and stuff like that. So, if that makes sense, Annie, like, yes, it is possible. And yes, what I find and what I love working with people is meeting them and go like, "Ooh, what ingredients do you have?" Right? Like, we just started a class yesterday, and there's a kid who literally just graduated from college with a business degree, and his uncles are in the arts, and they gifted him with this, and he's all right. There's another young man who's kind of bootstrapped himself up from the beginning, like he's been doing stuff since he was 17, and he got an agent, and he had a big opportunity, and then he didn't know what he was doing, and something happened. So I'm, like, meeting him right now, like, "Honey, it's okay. You haven't done anything wrong. It might seem like the end of the world, but it is just the beginning." So we're meeting him. And then there's someone who has a son who has cerebral palsy, who she's been raising, and now he's 16, and they said he wouldn't walk, and he's walking, and so she's, like, recognizing, like, "Wow, in a few years, my life is coming back. What is that? What do I want that to be?"
Mm.
We have someone who is, a retired military guy and coming like, so it really is what are the ingredients that you're bringing, and then how can you adapt them to this? But and and so it's not a guarantee, it's starting a business, it's not something like, "And then I just switched over." It's not getting a job, it's starting a business, and a business that is based on you and the entertainment industry. So yes, it is possible, and I think people who are switching things are often in a great place because they might have resources that they're okay. Like, "I'm okay, you're gonna be able to live, and you don't have this to happen." But I always talk about how do we start weaving voiceover into the rich tapestry of your gorgeous life and see how we do that. So it's something that you build to and build toward. The way we train at the dojo is how do we train so you have access to the highest levels if you wanna go that way, if that's how you wanna build your business. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You mentioned like the 6x6 space or the 3x3 space. And so it makes me think, yeah, it makes me think, is this job possible remote? I mean,
Oh, oh,
do
yes,
you,
you
like, go remote or do you go in? Because I always envision somebody goes into a studio,
well,
they're, like, recording or whatever, and yes, you're in a box, but it's like you go to a place.
well, yeah,
What does it
that,
look like today?
that's how it used to be, Annie. We used to go
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, I mean, there are obviously still recording studios and still projects where you will go into a studio, particularly since the pandemic. The whole business has shifted even more. It was already heading towards this way, but since
Mm.
the pandemic, like, everybody does most of their work from home, and having the capacity to do your work from home is great. So the positive parts of that are you literally can do this from anywhere where you have good internet and can make the times match, right?
Mm.
Um, um, there
So
was
I
one
could
point.
be on a beach in, like, Thailand and set
Mhm,
up my time. It could be nighttime there and just
mhm.
do my work.
Yep, yep. No, we have a colleague, we have a colleague who is originally, he calls himself, a European smoothie. He's, like, Dutch, but he has also he lives in Bali and does stuff from there. We have, a colleague who, was in LA, moved back home to Minneapolis, and basically started an international career from Minneapolis. We have, someone on our teaching team is moving to Rome in the fall.
Whoa.
So you really can. And then, then there is stuff like if you're burning urine to have animation be the thing that you're here to do at the highest levels, that's still happening in LA. But you can do it from other places as well. So there's things that it behooves you to be in certain places, and then there's so much and ever more that you literally can do this from anywhere.
Um, the fact my voice started getting really creaky and
Mhm.
phlegmy, and I'm thinking I had an allergy, but I don't know. But I'm assuming that maybe it's age related. And I was like, are there things that you have to keep in mind? Like, do you have to keep training your voice, or what do you do to sound good?
Yeah, well, our voice is our instrument, and our body is also part of our vocal instrument, right? Because vocality follows physicality, right? So, yeah, we need to take care of our instrument just as if we were violinists, right? And, yeah, you have to maintain it. I always say if your voice isn't working, you're not working, right? So there are definitely things, like, there's a simple thing that I usually have, that's a basic sort of vocal technique, that singers use, and it's for warming up your voice. It's just called straw phonation. So, like, I have a metal straw here, and so I've been working a lot today, so my voice is in pretty okay shape. I feel a little bit tired around the edges. You can kinda hear it, like, a little raspy. But, basically what you do is take a straw and hum into it. So, usually something with a little range, so no, I'm feeling everything activated here. It's all opened up here. And, can you tell a little bit difference in my
Yeah,
voice?
A
yeah.
Yeah,
little bit, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So something as simple as that of getting the whole mechanism working together, and then hydrating and blah, 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 all the stuff that, you're supposed to do.
It sounds great to be able to be remote and everything, but what's the biggest challenge of being a voiceover artist?
I think it is that, y it is a business, it is your business. So, there's a couple of biggest challenges. Right now, being self-motivated and, being able to do everything yourself, and it requires more than ever now to do voiceover because you have to build your skills, you need to know what you're doing, you need to be able to self-direct because oftentimes you're not working with somebody who's giving you direction, so you have to be able to understand what is required and deliver it, right? You need to know how it works when you are working with somebody. I think that it really requires that you are able to diversify your portfolio. I'm 30 years in and I'm like, let's add this political thing. Let's see how I can take what I'm doing. So you have to be ultimately entrepreneurial. You have to be this is a blessing, and of course you have to be available, like you have to have flexibility, right? If you're working with an agent or a manager and you have an opportunity come, you have to be able to deliver it, right? Like you said, "Oh, I could be on the beach somewhere." I had a colleague who, totally had the helicopter come. Great talent. When he was very young, he moved to LA, hit the big time with promo, like, when he was a very young man and very successful. So at one point he said, "I'm gonna move to Hawaii." And, um, and he had everything, but Hawaii was a really different time zone, so if he was working with East Coast, he was up super,
Mhm.
super early in Hawaii,
Yeah.
or if he was at the beach, he worked in a realm that, there's a certain number, certain people who were at that highest levels of promo, but when the job came, you needed to go and do it, so he was like, "I'm at the beach, I'm in the booth," like, he finally moved back, he was kinda like, "This is crazy." So there's things that are like anything that, there's the job part. I do think that there are some existential challenges, in terms of
Mm.
what's coming up with AI. Like everything, there's going to be the path that there will be people sharing their voices at the highest levels of things because we're humans, and whatever you believe that we will maintain humanity about everything, there's and there are things that are being impacted, right? So that's an interesting challenge that technology is making it easier and easier to get things voiced without necessarily it being your voice in real time, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, if
Mhm.
you could talk a little bit more about the threat of AI.
Yeah. Well, just like everything, we have to all recognize the value of what one of the founding principles of the VO Dojo um, is that voiceover is communication and communication is an exchange of vibrational energy. That's what we really that's what we're really responding to. That's how we connect to each other, right? It's that exchange of vibrational energy, and AI doesn't have that.
Mm.
I think I read a study that, like, your brain responds differently to when you hear a human voice,
Mm.
different parts of your brain are stimulated than when you hear an AI voice, even if it's the same exact information. Like, your brain right now responds differently. So, so yeah, it's become easier, cheaper, voices are better than ever, and so there's parts of things that people have been paying for that they maybe not be paying for, right? So it's kind of like everything else of, I don't know, um, we can all be deemed, completely.
I did read a little bit about the fact that the thing that AI doesn't provide um, is that human connection. Like, there's emoting that AI voices can't really do that humans do naturally. But I do think that AI presents a problem in sort of the entry level aspects.
Right.
So
Which then becomes a problem because if you have nowhere to enter, then how do you become advanced? How do you like, that's the eternal problem, right?
Mhm.
That's kind of what we're addressing at the dojo. Like, how do we start from the very beginning, lay the foundations for, if you have the potential to build a 40-story building in your voiceover career, then you have to dig the foundations and you have to. My dad was an architect, so you know, I grew up like going to high-rise buildings sites back when they would let little kids on things. But then you drill the caissons down.
Mhm.
You drill into the ground and you go as deep as you're going high, you drill down. And you need those foundations. You need those things. Back in my day, how did we learn this? On the job, right? On the job. You're doing E Hollywood true stories. It's working to picture. You're doing a British accent. It's like on the job. And so what we try to do is create this space that is it is the beginning and allows you to be at the beginning, but it allows you to be what are the skills that you'll need when you get to the place that you're working at the highest levels of it and you're ready for it. So I think that's a really interesting thing. And then I think, for everyone and everything, the only thing that I've had AI be like, thank goodness. Well, I had cancer uh in 24 and 25. I'm good. I'm good. But I also had a pulmonary embolism um last fall, and it was sort of like something was going on, but the doctor said AI found what was going on. I was like, "Oh, that's good." But, like, they couldn't even see it, but the AI found it. So I think there's things like that where even beyond what we can what's better than notice like, the level of detail that something can do that, I think that's good for it. But everything else, I think we're going to have to really champion our voices. Some of my colleagues, there's an amazing organization called National Association of Voice Actors. Tim Friedlander, who actually got his start at the dojo, and Karin Gilfrey, who are just amazing forces of nature. They and Nava have been going to Washington and lobbying and meeting with legislators about No Fakes Act and how important this is. They're heading up to Sacramento again on the beginning of next week. Like, they are on it because it doesn't only impact voiceover artists, it impacts all of us, of our likenesses and our voices, and so, yeah.
What would you tell your younger self?
Um, it's interesting. A lot of what I would tell my younger self is stuff that I incorporate into the curriculum of the VO Dojo. So we have, the rules of the dojo, and we have the rules of voiceover, and I think I would say the rules of voiceover are the things that I instill in everybody, but it's the things that my older self would say to my younger self, and they are: 1, share your truth; 2, trust your voice and trust your voice; 3, keep energy moving forward no matter what; 4, listen carefully on all levels of that; and the 5th one, and most important one, is playfully. Playfully and playfully go after
Mm.
it. And then I just had this jackpot come through on a call, but a new one. If there's a voice that says, like, "Is that even possible?" Find the voice within you that says, "Yes, of course it's possible. Of course it's possible." So, is that even possible? Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think those things that are sort of the spine, the heart of the dojo really come from everything that I've learned as a voiceover artist, as a human, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. But those are the things, um, you have everything you need. Tune in and don't stop, right?
Sage advice. Sage
Yes, thank you
Yes.
advice.
so much. It's been
Yeah.
good talking to you.
Yeah.
It's good talking to you, Tish. I'm talking to voiceover artists, and I can't,
But so professional.
but it's
No,
good talking to you.
it's great
Thanks,
to be
Tish.
here. Thank you so much. I hope that people are inspired about what is possible with their voice, and also trusting that it is a very powerful thing in whichever way you explore it.
If I had a better voice, which I do not, it would be really fun to be a voiceover artist, I think.
Oh, I think so too. I found Tish actually was quite fun to interview.
Yeah, she was like a fun person.
And I think that, anybody who has a chance to listen to this episode, I think will really appreciate the things that she shared with us.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things I did want to point out, because I did a little research. I was thinking, oh, when I was thinking about this, voiceover actor, or is it voiceover artist? But actually, they're different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, voiceover actor is somebody who, acting training, who focuses on entertainment media. So, characters, in animation, maybe in video games. But then, voiceover artist is typically a broader scope. So, they might do more like commercials, audiobooks. It's like they're just doing this voiceover for to be persuasive or provide information. So I think of that as more like they're helping to sell something as
Right.
opposed to like being a character. And so I
Yeah.
thought that was really interesting.
And yeah, it seemed like it's a potentially profitable job, but you are, it seems like you are just freelance. So
Yeah, you're hustling,
yeah, you have to hustle to get the good paying gigs. And as
you,
you said, that they don't aren't always easy to come by.
right? You also don't need a formal degree, but acting probably helps. Taking acting classes, improv classes, um, voice over classes because it's different. I mean, it's different than being in front of a camera because you
Yeah.
have to do everything with your voice. But even as a freelance, I think what's interesting is how you might get paid.
Yes.
Each gig, that you might do has a different kind of tier, right?
Yeah. And it seems like getting the good tier would be what you want.
Well, and those are harder to come by, right? Because you
Yeah.
imagine even if you did a voiceover for a national television commercial, which Tish mentioned she's done in the past, which I haven't watched yet, but
No.
if anybody wants to, they could, like, look up a Subaru ad, and apparently that's her voice.
That's her.
Um,
She's a
but
Subaru.
yeah, Subaru she's a Subaru voice.
Yeah.
But that pays, like, $10,000 or more,
That'd
you
be
know, f for that. Now I wonder, which I couldn't find, and I don't know if this is the case, but do they also get royalties for every time it's
yeah.
aired,
That's
right?
the question. I don't know.
So, big question mark, which I couldn't necessarily find, offhand, but the job is actually pretty highly competitive, like, if you go into this.
Yeah. I'm sure there are a lot of people who want this gig, and there are a lot of people who want the high paid gigs. But
Well, it's expanding though as an industry, like, for the job itself,
mm,
just because there's a lot of, like, digital entertainment now. I mean, lots of different avenues. I mean, you could literally do animation and anime, commercials,
yeah.
audiobooks, podcasts. Well, they're not gonna replace us anytime soon. But, you
Yeah.
know but technically we're doing voiceover.
We are. We
Yeah,
are.
and, video games, so and, dubbing. So if you think about, like, having to translate what, from all these different shows that are being made overseas to English, those are also opportunities too.
Yeah.
So, certainly, lots of opportunity, but it definitely comes with challenges. So,
It comes with a price. That
doesn't
was
everything?
yeah, yeah, that was my attempt to be dramatic and maybe better artist.
But if anybody's interested in doing something like this and they think they have the chops for this type of work, should really consider it. Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your podcasts.